Where and how does money dictate love in a relationship? How and why do we always equate love and money together? Because money is a hot button all the way around.
Did you push record?
Thanks for tuning into our second act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka.
Hi, Paige. Well, we're sitting here. We were going to do a whole other segment, and then we were bantering off camera like we usually do. And you brought up a really good point that I think we should talk about. And that is when you start over after 50, I mean, now dating, we're talking about relationships. One thing that is different than when we were younger is how money, or the lack thereof, affects our relationship and how we view that after 50. Talk to me about that.
So whether you're dating or you're in a current relationship, I'm just going to give a few scenarios that I have seen. So one person in a relationship might be a saver and really wants to put things on track for the both of you and just want to make sure that, hey, if something happens, if somebody gets sick, we'll have money. When we stop working, we'll have enough money, hopefully, until we die. We'll have money to travel. We'll have money, blah, 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 which is different when you're in 20s, 30s, because your capacity to work a lot longer and save is ahead of you. Yeah. And then maybe the other person in the relationship could care less about money. They could care less. Maybe they could care less because somebody else is always the one worrying about it. Somebody else is the one who's always taking care to make sure that things are in place. Somebody else is the one who's the safety net. So this is just one scenario of example of a couple. And you can imagine that they both love each other, but then that money situation could possibly get in the way because you're after 50 now and you're looking at things a little bit differently, a little more seriously. You need to keep the money more. You don't spend as much. And we've seen stats and research on that money is not spent as much because we know X, Y, and Z can happen. So what do you do when you have that particular kind of relationship? Whether you're in a relationship, a marriage, or a commitment, or if you're dating and you're starting to date, you really love somebody or like somebody, and you're noticing that money is something that just goes in and out the door, and the person kind of wants you, the one who's bringing more money to the table, and it stirs up and it goes into a lot of things. Like, the person who has the money, am I the one taking care of the person? Am I the caregiver of the person? Are they relying on me? Am I becoming the rock all the time? Do I want a life partner who can help with money? Or even if they can't help with money, can they help in other areas? So the lack of the money that they can't bring doesn't matter, because what you do bring, whether you help around the house or the emotional or whatever, balances that out. So I'll just pause for a moment because I know I threw a lot out there, Silka, to hear your thoughts.
Well, my initial thought is that what's different and we're talking about starting over, whether you're in a relationship, and that would be a short relationship at this point, or, you're just getting started. You haven't, as in a marriage or something, you haven't both contributed to the pot, to where whatever your inclination is, whether you're a saver or spender, somehow other things have been contributed to. Maybe the one who's a spender does other things, to make up for it, and maybe feels they deserve it or who knows? We don't know what that is. But none of that has occurred in a new relationship. So you're bringing whatever your inclination is to now coupling something new and deciding whether or not this makes sense. Can we adjust and be really happy?
But we're talking about both. We're talking about those of you who are in relationships and you're starting to experience this more and more. And then we're talking about, like you said, the new relationships. So for all of the viewers out there who might be in one or the other, where and how does money dictate love in a relationship? Where does money kind of go, all right, I'm pissed off because you haven't done blah, 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 and I'm the one doing X, Y, and Z with the money? How and why do we always equate love and money together? Because money is a hot button all the way around. Like, how do you have a relationship if you're the one who's more the breadwinner or the other person is a spender? You have to break it down and look at, like you said, what else can this other person bring? Because if it's all black and white, well, you're not helping out financially, so I'm done. There's other things that someone brings if they can't or they don't have the same type of money that you bring. Take a look at what are the value that they bring. Does that work for you? Are you going to still be resentful? Like you really have to take a look at bottom line, what's your relationship with money and what's your relationship with money and your relationship around love?
That's great question. And
Because
a lot of people,
every
yeah.
relationship has pieces of that that bleed in and out, you know?
Yeah. Well, and having done the show now for a while and talking to women and men, about all this, what the other thing that comes up for me is that there's, still that general belief held by a lot of men that, like on dating sites, women are just out, for a sugar daddy or they're this or wanting to be supported. And, that, yeah, I'm sure obviously that's out there, but boy, is that on both sides. And the fact of the matter
That
is,
that's interesting because I've seen the flip side where women have been in the workforce for a long time and they are the ones now. So interesting. I just thought I'd
well, that's what I was just
interject.
going to say. That isn't given enough attention. The fact that women after 50, especially that have been successful, whatever for whatever reason they're single, uh, we have. We bring a lot of that to the table, and just like men have always quote unquote had to adapt, was always expected the other way. They were the breadwinner. What's wrong with a woman being the breadwinner? Uh, and carrying maybe the financial burden of a relationship if the partner makes them happy.
Yeah, bottom line is where are you with money? With it, first of all, where are you? How do you define, how does money show up in your life? What are your values around it? What are your hang-ups around it? Then as a couple or when you date, you know, how does that show up? Because I can't tell you how many couples or individuals come in and go, they're married and I'm tired of being the one to be emotionally stable and financially stable and the other person doesn't bring anything to the table, or showing that the other person might not have the same salary but they bring a lot more to the table, or a person who's single getting ready to date in our age population and going, you know what, the one thing that I've learned in my past relationships is this is my money and you have your money and we can be together and we can live together and love each other, but I need to have this. Or some people are like, you know what, let's just bring it all together and we're just going to bring all of our money together. So, there's no right way, but there's a lot of emotion that's behind money in relationships and money with love.
Yeah. Well, so how do you channel that? What I know there's no right way because everybody's different, but is there a right approach? Or, I mean, how do you counsel people on that?
I think the biggest thing is, it always, and so you've heard me say this so many times, it comes down to individually. Where are you with money? What's been the past history with yourself with money? Have you always had a lack of, so it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have enough, so I'm going to hoard it, I'm not going to share? Has money just been, oh, we've always had enough and I don't worry about it? Or have you been enabled by your family members with money where you didn't have to grow up and really pay attention to it? Or are you someone who, look, I just want a balance between what I bring and what the other person brings? So first identify what is money to you. And then once you figure that out, then look at what's money in this relationship to both of us. Because there's no right way to figure out how we figure out money between the two people. And if you're getting ready to date and you've gone out of relationships or marriages and we're after 50 and you're getting ready to date, start to kind of look at that like, how do I want this to look in a relationship with somebody? Do I want to keep the money that I've earned and kind of wait and see how things go and then slowly we pull things together? Or do you both agree that, you know what, you have your money, I have my money, and let's just, so we don't fight, let's just keep it that way. So there's so many intricacies and emotions that weave the web through money and relationships.
Yeah. Well, for me, the bottom line is, money can't buy happiness, and at the same time, it's don't let it stand in the way of your happiness or ruin something. Um, yeah, it's a hard topic,
It
especially
is.
when
Yeah, and there's nothing black and white
no.
about it except where you stand with it. And if you want to be black and white with it, or you want to be a little bit more gray with it, it's a hard thing, and everybody goes through it. We all have this some kind of emotion wrapped up in money with ourselves and money in relationships.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up real fast. Just be clear where you are and
Figure out where you are with money, figure out where the person that you're having a relationship is with money, and figure out, like you said, how much intensity do you want to put around money versus the relationship and how the balance might work. Start there.
well, we'll see you next time on our second act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life.
If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. Our button's right over here. Just click through to YouTube, and then when you see that little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we launch a new video. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.